crush your enemies.
They drew first blood, not me.
See them driven before you.
Oh, my user.
And hear the lamentation of your women.
But I pity the fool.
Glitter in the dark near the 10-house gate.
Phone home.
They're here.
Oh, real light sleeper, child.
Welcome to Vintage Video, where we're rewatching the 80s so you don't have to. We'll be reviewing every major film release of the 1980s in chronological order, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today we're discussing Jaws of Satan, released January 15th, 1982. It was written by Gerry Holland from a story by James Callaway, directed by Bob Claver, and released by United Artists. The original title was King Cobra, which was changed after production to capitalize on the audience of the Jaws films, which this film's general structure is clearly modeled after. It was shot entirely in Alabama in late 1980, specifically Tuscaloosa, Demopolis, Childersburg, and a lot of Utah as itself, spelled E-U-T-A-W, which was frustrating for me because I kept thinking I recognized shooting locations, and I was like, nothing shoots in Alabama. So I definitely haven't seen this. So I was like, oh, that's the hotel from Four Seasons, and that's the house from that other movie. And I was like, no, nothing shoots in Alabama.
Before we start, I had a couple of notes here right out of the get-go because my normal setup for when I'm getting ready to watch the movie is open up a document and I paste in all the casts, and cast and crew so I can kind of check things off as I go.
Right.
And I got super excited because I saw Teen at Sawmill and it was like, there's a whole bunch of credits for Teens at Sawmill. I was like, oh boy. I
know what's going to happen to the kids at the sawmill.
I cannot wait for the sawmill scene. And let me tell you, we'll get to my emotional reaction when we get to the sawmill scene.
Yeah. When I hear Tuscaloosa, Alabama, I think of that Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Cleveland, Ohio.
Well, it's a Sublime song that you're singing.
Yeah, which one is it? Is it the one about the LA riots?
Yeah, that sounds right. See, I think of course, in Alabama, the tusks are loosa, but that's irrelevant.
What the hell?
Right? It's from Animal Crackers.
I don't know Animal Crackers.
It's the Groucho Marx. He shot an elephant in his pajamas. How it got there, he'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
I should also mention that we are not alone for this season of the podcast because Brett Parker of Dissect That Film, another wonderful podcast you should check out, is following along our entire calendar for the 1982 season, and he's providing his own commentary. So if you're looking for a second opinion, go check out Dissect That Film. He's on YouTube. It's on TikTok. You can find, and he's doing video content talking about the same movies as we do, usually posts within a week of our episodes dropping. So check that out. It's been fun so far. We open with the chirping and croaking of nature at night. A freight train cuts through the scene, and on board we see two men throwing dice in an office compartment that so closely resembles the one from Terror Train, I assumed it was a reused set at first. The first guy to toss the dice loses in a plot-relevant fashion.
You're right. Snake eyes again.
The dice loser complains about all the barking dogs on board and yells at them to shut up. He claims he lost because he couldn't concentrate with all the animal noise, specifically the dogs they're delivering to a racetrack and a snake headed for a nearby carnival, which is making no noise.
Mm-hmm.
What noise did you expect the snake to make?
He's complaining about the snake. It's in a chest.
Well, but the other guy actually makes the point. It's like, well, my snake isn't making any noise.
Yeah. The dice loser asks why his friend bothers with carnival work, and he says the chicks love it. Dice loser brings a club to check the train for hobos. I figured they were actually rolling dice to decide who would check the train for hobos.
Yeah.
That was the penalty for losing. As he passes through the luggage compartment full of dogs in cages, the door slams shut behind him, freaking him out. Do you guys recall the last time we saw dogs in cages in a train's luggage compartment?
Oh, I do, but I don't remember what movie that was.
I remember the movie, but
As they're passing through, they steal one of the dogs, and they name it Strudel.
Yeah, because they're trying to pass themselves off as wealthy people that
They're trying to pass this dog off as another dog that died on the train.
Oh, then I definitely don't remember this.
A dog that dies
No, it's
30 times over the course of the movie.
Yeah, it's the
It's a running gag.
It's not the Dragon Queen, it's the other one, right? It's one of those. Was it in black and white? No.
No, but it is a period film. It takes place in the 30s.
Oh, is it Somewhere Under the Rainbow? No. Yes.
You said the words. Under
Somewhere
the Rainbow is correct.
Under the Rainbow.
Yes.
Okay, that one.
Yes. Chevy Chase is replacing the dog that
Right.
was shot on the train
Yes.
with just a random dog they stole out of the luggage compartment.
Yes.
Dice Loser spots the snake chest and freaks out when the master lock pops off and the lid tips open. He seems hypnotized by the rising cobra within until it strikes his face, shoving him back against the wall. The compartment's side door slides open, and after a few more strikes, he is thrown from the train.
So, okay, so when I laughed out loud at this one because when he strikes him, there's like this audible thud.
That's the next guy.
Oh, the next
Yeah,
guy?
yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Did you want to mention the thing about the lock, though, that you noticed?
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so the lock is obviously like unlatching itself through, I don't know, Satan's powers.
Yes. Satan's snake magic.
Satan's snake magic, but Satan's snake magic suddenly makes the loop that the lock goes into disappear after they cut back to it so that the thing could just slide up without pulling the latch off.
Perfect.
The lock-picking lawyer.
The other train worker is unexpectedly bitten by the dog in his compartment, and the door to the rest of the train mysteriously swings open on its own with glowing red light beyond. He's now face to face with the same cobra with an unmistakably visible plate of glass between them. Insanely, when the snake moves to strike the man, they left in the production audio of the snake thumping against glass instead of substituting a snake bite sound.
Oh my God, this made me laugh so hard. It was like, okay, you could obviously take the thud out and then put in just some like hissing or slashing sound.
Or just that standard, that
like a whip
snap
sound,
yeah.
like, and anything. But they left the thud in, and I'm like, oh, so he didn't actually get bitten.
Right.
No, he got bitten.
It's like, wait, was he actually hiding behind a window and I was supposed to see that? Because it's just thump.
And then you hear as it
It
slides
just
down the
slowly
glass.
slides the whole way down. Do you guys recall the last time we identified an actor separated from a cobra by glass? I don't think so.
No? Oh.
I was going to say Raiders.
Raiders, I think, is the last time we specifically saw glass between them.
Okay.
Because for some reason in they were just allowed to get bit by snakes all the time. Like every single actor got bit over the course of that movie. The man is quickly bleeding from the face and the train slows to a stop on the tracks. Is that how this would work? I feel like the train would just keep going.
Yeah, well, I get the
Well, it might be a
implication.
dead man switch, right?
Well, I think the implication is that the snake has made its all the way to the engineering compartment because they mentioned that the engineer was found dead.
But the engineer died of a heart attack, we'll learn later.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually get bit by the snake. He just died of shock when he
Right.
saw what happened to the other guys. But I'm guessing maybe the engine was literally just wasn't being fueled anymore.
Well, I think most trains would be on a dead man switch.
Right. That makes sense. Because that's where that phrase comes from.
Yeah, because the guy
Yeah.
died.
Unless you die and fall onto the pedal, that's the train.
Right. We dip to black for a Bible verse, and the angel seized the serpent, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. After that, he must be loosed for a while. Revelations 20:2-3. Do you guys recall the last time we opened a movie with scripture? I can think of 2 examples.
Is it Image of the Beast?
Image of the Beast was one of my examples, yes. There was another one I could think of. Image of the Beast was the one where it was like wizards who peep and mutter or something like that. But Deadly Blessing. I can't even remember what it was, but whatever it was, it didn't make any sense to us by the end of the film. We cut to Fritz Weaver as Father Farrow. He's just finishing dinner by himself when a woman named Mrs. Carson checks in to clear the table. He thanks her for the meal. We learn quickly he's a little strange for a man of the cloth.
Do you know why a pig is like a saint?
No, Father.
Because he gets more praise after he's dead than when he's alive. Didn't like it, eh?
Now, that's not the sort of joke one expects to hear from a priest.
He stands from the table to read by the fireplace, and we see a hand-drawn illustration of nude men and women wrapped in snakes in a cave.
I believe it's supposed to be Dante's Inferno
I think so.
because it said Canto on the other page.
What does canto mean?
I don't know.
I assumed it meant chapter because it's like canto and then Roman numerals.
It might mean verse.
Maybe. Because it was like canto 25 or something like
Yeah,
that.
because I've thumbed through my copy of Dante's Inferno.
Oh, okay.
But I've never actually sat down and gave it a good read.
I've just seen Dante's Peak. Is it similar?
Oh, it's exactly the same.
It's basically the same.
Coffee is not kept in the refrigerator. You don't keep coffee beans in the fridge.
That makes sense. Still Pierce Brosnan though. He sets the book down to warm his hands by the fire, and it flicks off instantaneously. When he touches the wood, it's not even hot. Or I guess it's not hot. He doesn't react to it in a way that indicates that it's hot.
But isn't it like those fireproof logs are not supposed to really get hot?
But I don't think this is one of those concrete log fireplaces. I think this is before that. We jump forward some time to Father Farrow at a party, drinking and staring out the window without speaking to anyone. We'll learn he's new to town, and presumably he's here to meet people, but he's meeting people the way I meet people, by hiding from them and expecting them to come find me and force me to talk. We cut to party guest Evelyn, the town's self-declared witch, cornering one of the higher profile guests, Matt Perry, who introduces his daughter Kim to the witch.
Are you really? Yes, really.
Kim here is of course being played by the feature film debut of a young Christina Applegate. Do you guys recall the last Matt Perry we discussed on the podcast? Hint, it was not the actor, but the character was an identically named historical figure.
Oh, Bushido Blade.
That's right.
Ah.
Commodore Perry.
Yeah.
Evelyn claims she's one of the good witches, and Matt is called away by his wife Elizabeth to interrupt his friend Mayor Grady Thorpe, who's reportedly making campaign promises in another room. Elizabeth is being played by Nancy Priddy, Applegate's actual mother. Evelyn offers Elizabeth more ice, but she warns against diluting the drink if she wants to survive this party. Mother, daughter, and witch take seats in the den to discuss witchcraft. Evelyn scoffs at questions about crystal balls like they are ridiculous, before suggesting she can read people's futures from their coffee backwash.
Grounds and a coffee cup can tell a lot.
Kim offers her emptied mug of hot cocoa, but Evelyn explains that this is unfortunately useless to her powers.
Okay, now, I am not a coffee drinker, but is there, like, I know that there's loose leaf tea and you could read tea leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Do people used to have grounds in coffee? Because
before paper was invented, they just didn't filter that out.
I don't understand. I thought, like, you have a French press and that squeezes all the grounds out, and then, or you have a filter that it goes through.
Yeah. There have definitely been instances of being at restaurants or even at home where
there's grounds in the coffee.
But it's usually not like super coarse grounds. It's usually like just really kind of like fine grit.
Have you ever been able to get a reading off of them? Or?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if she can just take the paper out of the coffee machine and get like a average of the party's future.
Everyone who's had a drink.
She could tell how the night went, but then so could people who were paying attention. She takes Kim's hand before ordering her to obey her parents. Like, that's her fortune telling. And I guess it pays off over the course of the story because she doesn't and she should have.
But also, she cringes like, it's like, oh, she knows. It's like, she knows. It's like, yeah, what child does obey their parents?
What are
all
the chances that I'm disobeying my parents?
I'm not even supposed to be drinking coffee.
Yeah.
I'm a child.
She said it was cocoa.
Oh, that's true.
We see Mr. Perry dragging the mayor out of the party and ordering him not to talk so much for fear he will turn away voters. Perry asks Evelyn what her powers say about the new dog track he's building in town. Father Farrow jumps into the chat to share that he doesn't approve of bringing such a vice to town that will inherently hurt some people, but Perry says that he's more concerned with the opinions of taxpayers. Ooh, sick burn. Farrow is introduced to the witch, and he seems fully briefed on her role in this town. She says she's researched his family line a bit in advance of his arrival and finds it fascinating. The family line records all the way back to the ancient Druids. She steals his coffee cup when he finishes it, curious to read the grounds, but when she does, she faints and drops the cup, and he barely catches her. Sometime later, she has recovered, and he walks her to her car. On the way, she shares a sobering prediction. She senses a powerful evil.
It was as if I were looking into the face of Satan.
Come on, Evelyn. Parlor tricks are one thing. We're alone now.
We're not alone.
She urges him to take the warning seriously, but he assures her that if Satan was here to collect a priest's soul, he wouldn't bother with Farrow's. As he loads her into her car, he begs her not to worry herself on his account. He wanders back to the porch, and as he sits, the shadow of a snake rises behind him, and we cut to a farm where two men load up a trailer with firewood. Suddenly, one of the men is attacked by a rattlesnake, and the other man races over to lop off its head. A second snake, the cobra from the train, watches the interaction and hisses unnoticed.
Do you recall the last time we chopped the head off of a snake?
Last time we chopped the head off of a snake. Did it happen in...
I don't think... That's not the one I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of a very clearly head chopped off of snake.
Because I do remember they killed a snake, but maybe it didn't get its head chopped off. Clearly chopped the head off of a snake.
It was a real snake.
Oh, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah. We cut right to a hospital as Sheriff Tatum walks out, and he's intercepted by live reporter Denise Williams looking for details on the story. Turns out this isn't about the farmer, but the train employees who were discovered this morning on the stopped train. The only survivor, the brakeman, is in critical condition. She asks if this will affect the opening of a new dog track, but honestly, I don't see a connection. I mean, there were dogs on the train, but they found the train, so the dogs can be safely transported to the track.
Yeah, I mean, unless all the dogs
froze to death.
Yeah, like I think that would have been like pretty intense. Like it's like all the dogs had been bitten or died.
Yeah,
you know?
But we get the impression that basically the snake jumped off the train after it did that.
I mean, I think it's a pretty important plot line that the guy wants to keep the track opening happening no matter what.
It's important to the screenwriter, but I'll argue that it doesn't make a lot of sense to the plot.
Well, fair enough. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, otherwise we can't kill the dogs.
Yeah,
because
we have to keep bringing up the dogs.
The greyhound races to keep going.
And is that how dog tracks work? I mean, I just need like a good shipment of greyhounds.
Don't people bring the dogs that they trained themselves?
Exactly.
The film plays Matt Perry and his dog track like a Jaws Mayer situation, but these people aren't being bitten by dogs at the racetrack, so I don't see a connection. We see the brakeman in his bed struggling to say the word snake. When his attending physician, Dr. Sheridan, arrives, she asks the nurse what he was trying to say, but she didn't quite hear it.
It sounded something like steak or quake.
I wanted her to be like, I'm going to order him some steak and shake. He probably wants some food. We follow Dr. Sheridan through the hospital to meet with Father Farrow and update him somewhat callously on the man's condition.
Maggie, I got here as fast as I could. How's the patient?
Crossing over into your territory.
The farmer from earlier is rolled down the hall next, and she learns that his son blames a snake bite for the condition. She heads to the morgue to see if she can learn anything from the bodies of the men who didn't survive the train attack. She finds the medical examiner, Dr. Owens, sleeping under a blanket on a gurney in the morgue. Do you recall the last time we saw someone sit up from a nap on a slab reserved for the dead?
Was it that one in that seaside town?
Yeah.
What was the name of that movie? No.
It wasn't the name of the town.
Wasn't the name of the town.
It's not Dead and Buried?
Dead and Buried. Yeah. I think it was called Potter's Bluff.
Yeah.
Owens starts to tell her what he's learned from the bodies, and you're never going to believe this. He's got a morbid sense of humor and a bedpan full of fried chicken, just like every fucking morgue employee in every fucking movie ever.
Yeah, there's no remember the last time because every time we've ever seen a morgue, somebody is eating.
At this point, it would be more original to portray one of these guys as boring and unwilling to eat on the job.
So I feel like I'm less bothered by the fact that he eats around the bodies and more bothered by the fact that he just had chicken randomly sitting on a shelf in his office in like a dissection pan.
Yeah.
Like, how long has that been there?
Yeah, it's pretty gross. But it's supposed to be. And that's why these guys just can't stop eating whenever there's a camera in the morgue. When he unveils the train's engineer, he blames a massive coronary, but for the other victim, his face has 2 big holes above his cheekbone, which appear massively infected. He suspects a snake bite, but that's off the record. He warns her not to make any public statements that might reflect poorly on the dog track, and she voices, "My biggest problem with this whole plot."
What's the dog track got to do with it?
His attempt to connect the 2 plot devices is rambling, but amounts to nothing more than, people will spread snake rumors until everyone's too scared to go anywhere. She says she's seen lots of snake bites, but this might be the worst. She suggests bringing in a herpetologist from the local university, and again, Dr. Owens says Perry won't like it. We cut to her at the airport, watching a plane slowly land, and then slowly taxi, and then a passenger slowly disembarks, and it's like, he could have just been stepping into a car with her already. We didn't need to see this whole shot. I mean, I'm glad you got a plane for the movie. This is Dr. Hendricks, the herpetologist, and he's sexist.
There's supposed to be Dr. Sheridan who picked me up here. He send you?
I'm Dr. Sheridan.
Whoops.
Without having seen anything, he warns her that she might be wasting his time. She pulls up to the hospital and realizes she needs to make a stop along the way to the morgue.
I just want to drop in on one patient. It's on the way to the lab. Is that okay?
No.
And then she just laughs awkwardly. I actually like that he never breaks in this scene. He just leaves it at that, and he keeps this serious, angry face.
It's completely unprofessional.
Yeah. They pop in to check on the farmer, and son says a rattler got his daddy.
How do you know it was a rattler?
Probably the rattle. That'd be my guess. These are farmers. They know what a rattler looks like. The man explains further that even after he cut off the snake's head, the body stood straight up on its tail somehow. He even has the snake's body with him to prove the species. Dr. Hendricks seems a bit surprised by the size of it, but it's nothing he hasn't seen. Dr. Sheridan thinks she can change his mind by showing off the bite wound on the other cadaver, but by the time they get to the morgue, the victim has already been transferred to a crematorium on Owen's orders, presumably handed down from the mayor. And we'll never see Owens again, I don't think. Or he might come back for a little bit later.
Yeah, he comes back. He reads out like a report to the town hall meeting.
That's correct.
But did no one take any? I guess he would have taken photos as the pathologist, and then they got rid of those two, probably.
Yeah, but someone also mentions that Matt Perry called, so it seems like a favor is being called in from the owner of the dog track by Matt Perry. Could he be any more of a villain? We cut to the tail end of a man's house call confession with Father Farrow. The priest urges the young man to consider ditching drug use and getting high on God.
You know, when problems build up, you can give him the God, you know. He can be quite a trip, too.
Yeah, Father. I know what you mean.
That time I took LSD, it's all good.
Yeah. He was weird, man.
It's like he just lets the kid go, and he's like, yeah, job well done.
I saved that child's life. When the man leaves, Farrow gets a call from Evelyn. She informs him of the recent deaths in town and blames her vision of Satan's approach. He offers to come check on her, but she demands he stay home safe so she can come to him. Back at the hospital, Dr. Hendricks prepares to leave since she has nothing to show him, but he invites her to call him back whenever. His taxi veers all over the road on the way to the airport, occasionally drifting over the lane into oncoming traffic, but the driver swears he has the roads memorized. They see lights in the rear view and are somehow pulled over by an ambulance. And at first he seems to think it's a police car, but it's like I could tell from just the lights that it was an ambulance. There's no blue. Sheridan is behind the wheel of the ambulance. She raced out to show him another outrageous snake bite, and to avoid losing it this time, she brought it with her. It's Evelyn. Hendricks agrees to return to the hospital with her. The taxi driver seems to wait here as if Hendricks will be back to finish his ride soon.
Want me to keep the meter running?
You guys recall the last time we saw a cab driver keep the meter running?
Was it Airplane?
That was the one I was thinking of. I think we also saw it in The Out-of-Towners when Jack Lemmon keeps running into different train stations that are closing as he's getting to them. Because he writes down the taxi driver's address like he's going to mail him the money or something like that.
Yeah.
In town, Deputy Jack informs the sheriff that a snake has been cornered at a local hardware store and people are concerned about it. Sheriff Tatum heads right there. As he searches the store, we get a wholly unnecessary insert of a rat getting snapped shut in a trap as a jump scare. I'm hoping this was like stock footage of a rat in a rat trap.
Yeah.
In the back room, he eventually finds the snake climbing around on paper bags of corn feed, and he shoots the animal dead. It's an impressive shot, but I think it's literally just the snake slithering to the ground, and they were like, that looks enough like it's dying.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dr. Hendricks drops Dr. Sheridan off at her place and borrows her car to drive to his hotel. Inside, she strips down for a shower, and we keep getting glimpses of a snake creeping around her room. She gets totally undressed, showered, and dried without ever seeing it, though, despite both of them being in the shower together for some of that time. Do you guys recall the last times we've seen people showering with snakes?
Well,
or bathing with snakes, I should say?
Well, Deadly Blessing is one of them.
Deadly Blessing is one of them.
Saturday the 14th? Oh, wait, no, that was the fish man.
Yeah, that was like a whole Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Guy.
The other two were 70s titles. One of them had a lot of snakes in it. That's right. It bites a guy on the foot when he's in the shower.
Right.
And then when he dies, his girlfriend thinks it's because she had sex with him too much. And then there's another one where it scares two people in the shower. And the second person, when she freaks out, the first guy who got scared says, oh, you should have brought a mongoose in there with you.
Oh, James Bond. It's Live and Let Die?
That's correct. At one point, the camera even pans away to a window, and outside we see another shadow rising up, implying, I believe, a second snake, but I've never seen a less convincing hand puppet of a snake. So I'm certain there's just a weird dude outside. When she's fully redressed, she finally sees the creature slithering around her room, and she's petrified in fear at the head of her bed as it slowly creeps across the comforter toward her. She reaches for the phone and calls Dr. Hendricks. And we cut right from him answering to him flying down the stairs and running out of the Utah hotel to the car. Somehow, Sheridan and the snake stay locked in their staring contest the whole time until Hendricks arrives and suggests simply getting out of the bed. He uses a snake pole to loop up the rattler's head, and he's pulling the rope so tight around its neck that I worried he was just going to decapitate a real snake in the scene. Like, he looks like he's exerting so hard, and the snake's neck looks so pinched that I was really freaking out that they were just going to lop the head off of the snake. Instead, he pulls out a gun with the rattler pinned to the bedroom wall and shoots it in the face, taking the top half of its head off, unveiling a spurting fountain of blood within.
I feel like that was very unnecessary because now that you have control of the head,
Put it in a
looped
net.
in this little lasso thing.
Yeah.
You're a herpetologist. You know how to handle snakes.
Yeah.
Like, lift it up and take it out of there. Put it in a pillowcase. Like,
Yeah.
get it out of There's no reason to shoot it, or at the very, I mean, even if you're planning to kill the snake, there's no reason to put a bullet hole in this woman's headboard.
Right. And I wanted her to be like, oh no, like the kids sleep on that side of the wall. Like, you shouldn't have shot that.
Also, where did he get the gun?
She hands it to him. Like she
just
puts
had
it
a
in his
gun.
hand so that he could shoot it. It's like, first of all, there's two of us. I'll hold him, you shoot him, but sure, I'll do both jobs. As a scientist, though, wouldn't you want to study this creature that has allegedly killed several people in the town? The silhouette of the cobra outside shrinks out of sight. It seems like the trained snake is like hypnotizing the other snakes into doing its bidding.
But why?
And also,
why doesn't it just attack everyone?
Why? So if we're to assume what the goal of the snake is, I don't get why it's going after, like, I get why Evelyn's death I understand.
I think it's just trying to get his attention, and it's doing that by attacking as many people as it encounters as quickly as it can. I don't know the geography of the town, but maybe it's moving toward him if we looked at a map.
Oh, okay.
Nobody ever triangulates this.
Yeah, it's like we need the Kevin Bacon moment of, it's coming right for us.
Yeah, or the Wiggum moment of like, oh God, they're coming for the station. Sheridan is still panicking until Hendricks walks up and slaps her. She slaps him right back. Do you guys recall the last time we saw a man slap a woman for being hysterical and then she slapped the man back?
Airplane?
Nope.
I was just thinking of the slapping scene.
There's a lot of slapping in there.
It's a slapstick.
You liked the movie a lot.
Oh.
I found a Blu-ray of it, by the way. I'm replacing the standard def that I have.
Sphinx?
It is Sphinx. You're like, well, I only like one movie. Sphinx. It must be Sphinx.
I was trying to think of what movies do I like that no one else likes.
Yep. She apologizes for hitting him, and he holds her.
Did I hurt you?
Yeah.
The deadpan delivery is so great. Like, I really like this guy.
I know. The dialogue is great.
The next morning, Mrs. Carson stops by Farrow's place to deliver some groceries and brings word that Evelyn, who had intended to visit his home last night, was discovered dead yesterday. She wasn't even very far away from here.
She was found on Spring Street.
But she must have been on her way here.
We cut back to Sheridan's place, where she and Hendricks share a seemingly post-coital breakfast and kiss. Suddenly, Farrow comes tromping out of the woods as though he walked in a straight line directly here from his place. He interrupts their romantic gesture with news that Evelyn died yesterday, and he wants to know some details on the case, since they obviously already know. They found her body.
Also, Dr. Sheridan's like really upset to see him. She's like, what's he doing here?
Yeah.
It's like, do you
is this
know
your
each
other
other?
boyfriend? They hesitate to admit their strong suspicion that a snake bite is to blame.
The wound was extraordinary. I've been studying snakes for 20 years, and I can't identify it.
But you just identified it as a snake bite.
And how old are you?
Yeah. Since I was 4 years old, I've been studying snake bites. Farrow is less forthcoming with his suspicion that this unidentified snake possibly shares the blame with Satan himself. Farrow goes to visit his uncle, the local Monsignore, to discuss these events. Dr. Sheridan goes to speak with the mayor and urge him to announce the danger of these snake attacks to the public. I don't know why she needs his permission. She could easily go to the press herself, and they would kill to report on a killer snake infestation that would undoubtedly boost their readership. The mayor downplays the threat of the snakes, and for some reason she bothers trying to convince him further, but he emptily promises to look into it when he feels like it. She doesn't work for the mayor. This isn't Jaws. This isn't Chief Brody holding his tongue on direct orders. She works for a hospital. She storms out of his office and continues telling nobody in a position to do anything about it. We cut back to the priest and Monsignore, where we learn a bit of backstory. Apparently, Farrow's father's cause of death was kept secret from him.
My father, he died in the war.
He took his own life.
What?
Despite protecting Father Farrow's feelings well beyond adulthood, the Monsignore describes further how Farrow's dad was found all sliced up with a razor blade by his own hand. Are you sure that was a suicide? This seems completely insane.
He could have been that guy from Airplane who was trying to shave on the plane.
Yeah. It's just really too much turbulence. The whole family line seems cursed every 3 generations to a violent death.
I traced it all the way back, astounded, until I came to O'Farrow, a follower of St. Patrick.
Apparently, O'Farrow drew the ire of the pagans and druids driven from Ireland by St. Patrick. They put a curse on his family, which survives today. Oddly, though, he specifies the curse only affects every 3rd generation, But if Farrow's father was a victim, he should be in the clear. And we don't see any Farrow kids either.
Yeah.
The Monsignore mentions that the curse might appear in the form of animals acting strangely. It's like, oh, well, no wonder you found it every 3 generations. Like, animals acted strangely every 100 years? All the way back to St. Patrick?
Snakes. Remember Genesis. The snake was the first form that Satan ever took.
Farrow seeks guidance, and the Monsignore reminds him his faith in God is a strong weapon. And Farrow makes a face like, yeah, about that. might not be so great. And this is where we start to step more into the Exorcist metaphor of this film, because this is a combination of Jaws and The Exorcist. He admits that he's struggling with his faith right now, and the Monsignore suspects that Farrow's doubts are what have drawn Satan to him.
A priest would make a bright flame in hell.
Because no priest anywhere else in the world has doubts.
Right. Isn't there also a lot of fire down there? Do they need more lights? We cut to a 30-second scene of a boy and girl about to make out in an abandoned sawmill when a snake drops from the ceiling, and we hard cut to Deputy Jack closing up the back of an ambulance.
God damn it.
That's all you get. That's the whole thing.
I didn't even know it was a sawmill.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this was just a bridge.
Yeah, I was like, oh boy, here we go, the old mill.
Nothing.
Nothing.
You so stupid. The ambulance pulls away, leaving Jack and Sheriff Tatum to explore the area. Jack sees a rustling bush and draws his gun, but it turns out to be a passing girl on a hike. He doesn't say anything like murderous snake about.
It's like a 6-year-old child out by herself.
Yeah, she's like 10 miles away from the next house.
She just says hi and walks on.
I'm just doing a half marathon. See ya. He continues looking around through the thick plant life and seems to find something shocking, but we never get a reverse angle from his POV, and he falls out of frame as Tatum calls out desperately from his radio. It reminded me of the Metal Gear Solid games, except these guys aren't on Snake's team.
Yeah.
Snake! Snake! He's like, no, I saw a snake. I'm calling to you about it. When Tatum finds Jack, he rolls the deputy over to see a gaping, bloody bite wound on his face, and we cut right to Evelyn's funeral. Farrow's eulogy is rambling, and he is clearly the saddest of the mourners. He just doesn't know what to say. When everyone leaves, he places a final white carnation on her coffin, and as he kneels with his eyes closed, the crucifix from his necklace falls to the ground, but he doesn't seem to notice. Reminding me that this self-avowed witch might not have wanted a full Christian burial, but she also seemed to believe in Farrow's god and devil, so who knows. Do you guys recall the last time we saw a priest desecrating a pagan grave with a crucifix?
The Wicker Man.
That's right. While Farrow continues Oh, by the way, speaking of Farrow, did you guys hear who passed away today?
Oh, no. Mia?
Tisa, her sister,
wow.
that was in the zombie movie, who I had spoken with a bit on Twitter because she liked our review of Zombie. Yeah, I guess she passed away on the 10th. I just heard about it today. But her Twitter handle is TF which is Tisa Farrow and then Boxcar, because in the movie Zombie, they're pretending that they were having sex on the boat when the police find them. And then he says, I would have been happy to do it in a boxcar. And she says, oh no, not another boxcar. So it's clearly a zombie reference. While Farrow continues praying with his eyes closed, a hand grips his shoulder and the Monsignore apologizes for startling him. He's brought another entire book on the Farrow family, but it's in Gaelic, so he can't read a lot of it. He's found one example in the whole Farrow descendancy that escaped the every 3rd generation curse.
Now it says here that Timothy faced the demon, who was in the form of a large serpent, and defeated him.
He goes on to say that Timothy faced the animal in his own home and drove it away with a gold sign. What kind of gold sign might a priest have driven away a Satan snake with? By the way, I don't think we ever saw Farrow pick up the crucifix he just dropped, so it's still in the grass back there. While they talk, the Cobra that we've seen commanding the other... He's a Cobra commander, I just realized that. While they talk, the Cobra we've seen commanding the film's other snakes rises beside them, and the Monsignore is shocked to speechlessness and an apparent heart attack, same as the train engineer. When the snake hisses, Farrow tries to shepherd the Monsignore away through the cemetery, and the snake is never believably keeping up with these 2 elderly men. When the Monsignore stops to catch his breath, he urges Farrow to save himself.
It's you he wants.
Farrow runs full speed away.
That's not really saving himself.
Yeah.
He's saying, let him chase you so that I let him.
Well, I think he's saying you don't need to drag me through this cemetery because he's not after me. Just let go and run faster.
And again, though, if like this whole concept of that it's Father Farrow that the snake wants, then why is it going around killing all these other random people?
And you're actually, if my dad was from that generation, then you are also of the Farrow family from the generation that is doomed.
Mm-hmm.
So why doesn't it want you?
It's supposed to be the oldest son of the third generation.
Yeah, but this guy isn't the third. he's the first one down.
It'd be one thing if it was killing people that he cared about to torture him, but he's new to town. He doesn't know anybody.
Yeah. Farrow runs full speed away until he falls into an open grave. The more inserts we get of the snake hissing, the more obvious and depressingly we can see that it has been defanged.
Yeah.
By the way, do you guys recall the last time we saw someone in an empty grave terrified of snakes? In that film, the snakes actually enter the grave, though. Lots of them. Because they've been collected over months to be dumped in this grave with the guy.
Is it Phobia?
No.
Seems like something that they do in Phobia.
It was a Patreon episode. It took place in sort of a Wild West situation. Jason Robards has been collecting snakes.
Oh. What's the name of that? It was like Daisy something or Flower Moon something.
No, but there is a song in that. Butterfly Mornings.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. That's not what it's called, though.
No, it's the guy's name.
Oh, it is the guy's name. Okay.
He says it a lot in the movie.
Cable Hogue?
There you go.
Yeah.
Was it the ballad? I don't remember that at all.
The Ballad of Cable Hogue. He's got this bag, and we keep seeing him picking up snakes for the whole movie.
Huh.
And then at the end, when he finally lures the bad guys back to his place, when they think they're digging for his treasure, they're actually digging their own grave, and then he dumps a bunch of rattlesnakes in there.
Oh, yeah, that's great. I like that one.
Farrow struggles to escape the grave and grapples for a grip on a nearby wrought iron fence. When a section comes loose, he wields the rod as a weapon, but turning it over in his hands, it takes on the shape of a crucifix, replacing the one he unknowingly dropped, and the snake is seemingly pissed off by the image. By the time Farrow finally escapes the hole, the Monsignore is just saying Tom over and over again. Farrow says a Latin prayer over his fallen uncle and finally recognizes the crucifix-shaped rod in his hand. We cut now to Hendricks, the herpetologist, who's holding a Q&A with the entire town in their town hall. Thankfully, Dr. Sheridan has decided to spread the word without the mayor's blessing. Unfortunately, not only were the mayor's fears unwarranted, the town isn't panicked at all by the story, and they tend not to believe it without having heard the mayor's side of the story. And it's like, this is a herpetologist. I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
But
why do you need the
also,
mayor to tell you it's okay?
Like, the evidence, I feel like, is so overwhelming. At this
Right.
point, I think we have 5 confirmed bitten in like dead individuals.
I think that 3 of them are dead, and a couple of them have been bitten and haven't died yet. The only ones that die are the ones that are getting bit by the cobra.
Okay. But we have 5 that have been bitten. I think
Yeah.
that went to the hospital. They were bitten. They're either dead or alive or whatever. They've been bitten by snakes. And then we have like 4 or 5 confirmed sightings of other snakes that haven't actually bitten people. So I'm just like, those 2 things combined are overwhelming evidence that there is a snake problem of some sort happening.
But they're like, I don't know. What does Mayor Grady have to say about all this? Just then, Mayor Grady busts in demanding answers.
What the hell is going on here?
The mayor claims it's all bullshit and even forces Dr. Owens to corroborate by announcing that Evelyn died from a bee sting, or 2 giant bee stings in her face, about a fang's width apart. The crowd is satisfied that there's no impending danger and begins to disperse until Father Farrow stands to demand the floor. Why wasn't he already on their side speaking?
But why is nobody mentioning the other 4 people? Like,
I don't know.
You just dismissed one of them.
Yeah.
I was nearly killed by a giant snake this morning at Evelyn Down's funeral.
The town flip-flops back to Team Snakes Exist, and Mayor Grady, Mr. Perry, Doctors Owens, Sheridan, and Hendricks, and Father Farrow all step into the back office to discuss this threat in private for a moment. Perry tries to hardball the crowd by insisting that the dog track will open in exactly 24 hours, whether they like it or not. Nobody gives a fuck about your dog track, sir. Go home. In Jaws, the mayor was upset about closing the beaches because shark attacks mean people don't go to the beaches. These attacks aren't localized to the dog track. In fact, people might be safer at a dog track than at home or in public parks because at least they'd hear people around them screaming before the snake reached them. They should be advertising the dog track as snake-proof or something to drive customers in. In tandem, the mayor and Perry have approved a brief town curfew in which the doctors are ordered to find and kill all the relevant snakes. But what happens when their time is up? What is their point here?
Yeah.
It's like if I said, you have 24 hours to solve world hunger. Maybe you'd solve it, but if you didn't, it's still an issue in need of a solution. They didn't cause the snake problem, so we can't punish them for not solving it fast enough.
Also, it seems counter to what the mayor and what they want, because establishing a curfew would imply
admit that there's a danger.
There's a problem.
Yeah. So he's just saying, solve this by tomorrow or else. I will have to think of another actual solution.
Turn in your badge.
Yeah.
It's like, turn in your doctor's badge and your gun.
Right.
Which apparently you have.
Yep. He threatens to throw them in jail if they remind people about snakes after the deadline.
On what charge?
We'll come up with something.
To solve this problem as quickly as possible, they settle on the least practical method of searching for snakes, a fucking helicopter. Snakes are famous for hiding right underfoot until it's too late to run, so I don't know how anybody's going to see them from 500 feet in the air. Hendricks appears to be in the pilot seat, with Sheriff Tatum in the back, and mentions that snakes like rocky outcroppings, so they could have easily traded this helicopter for one of the city's geological studies. Where are rocks? There's rocks over there. But also, do devil snakes like the same shit as regular snakes? Like, who knows? These are weird snakes. We see Dr. Sheridan drive past a gas station when she's suddenly being followed by a biker. This is a weird scene. The entire town is deputized to explore the rockier parts of the town's landscape and just decimate the local snake population. These are probably the normal snakes that they're all killing right now. The biker starts tailgating Dr. Sheridan and then knocks on her window to hit on her. When she's not receptive, he pulls ahead of her. Out on the rocks, Hendricks catches a fifth rattler and notices a pattern.
You know, it's like they're heading in the same direction.
Back out on the road, Dr. Sheridan is still driving when the biker comes back to play chicken, aiming for a head-on collision. She swerves off the road to avoid him, and just as soon as she's back on the road, he cuts her off again. She locks all her doors to keep him out, but her car won't start, and he waves her out of the vehicle with a revolver.
Where was she going?
I would assume that she was headed to where these people are looking for snakes, but I don't know why she wouldn't have carpooled with them, because Hendricks doesn't have a car. So they should be...
No, he has a helicopter.
Right.
Now he does, yeah. Ho, 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 I have a helicopter. I have to admit, I was a little worried that with all the talk of St. Patrick in this snake movie that they were going to rip off my Leprechaunda pitch, but luckily they didn't overlap the plot of my terrific monster film. She locks all the doors to keep him out, but the car won't start, and he waves her out of the vehicle with a revolver. He throws her up against the car and puts the gun in her mouth. What the fuck is this movie about? What just happened? Like, this feels very much like a scene that they just added at the last second because they were like, we need another really intense moment that has no bearing on anything before or after it. He drags the barrel of the gun down to her chest, and just as his face is even with her waist, she screams, and the evil snake saves the day. Each motorist returns to their vehicles, but she still can't get it started. But for no reason, we made the snake a good guy in one scene who protects her from a rapist who immediately disappears. The snake uses its head. The snake uses its head to bash out her driver's side window, and she finally gets the engine to turn over before driving away. We cut now to Matt Perry's home, where we learn that he literally hired the biker to rape and murder Dr. Sheridan to protect his completely unrelated dog track. What is this guy's problem? Nobody is talking to you. We cut back to the wilderness, where Hendricks and Sheriff Tatum have found a cave full of snakeskins, and Hendricks suggests this is their central shelter. When they hold up the big snakeskin they found, the snake looks conservatively 15 feet long, and they are spooked. Inside the cave, we see dozens of snakes slithering in the cave's ponds. Now, we cut to Farrow's home, where Hendricks has drawn a fairly standard king cobra drawing, and the priest confirms this is exactly the one he saw. It's like, yeah, I just drew a cobra. Could have just, like, pulled this up in a book.
Yeah, and who doesn't know what a cobra looks like?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's right. It had these big wings on the side of its head. Yeah, that's a pretty normal snake. He tries to explain to them that this isn't just a dangerous snake, but one possessed by the devil.
It's a snake. It's a goddamn big snake.
It is Satan!
Okay. I think it's time for you to take a little nap. Back at the Perry house that night, we see their daughter Kim sneaking out after curfew and spotting something in the grass outside. She eventually digs her kitty cat, Bandit, out of the plants, but she's caught bringing it back in. Her mother grounds her for a week for breaking curfew for like 10 seconds. Is this necessary? She went like 12 feet out into the yard to get her cat, and you're grounding her for a week? We cut to the next morning at the grand opening of Green Track Greyhound Racing. The parking lot features a bandstand and a parade of cheerleaders. A limo pulls up, and out step the mayor and Mr. Perry, who honestly could have been combined into one character.
Yeah.
I would like to call the mayor.
Yeah, like just do the Blood Island.
Yeah.
It's like
very easy.
Are you the mayor or the real estate
agent? It's like, I'm both. I'm both of those things. I'm also a CSI. I'm going to investigate the crime scene later. Complicating the matter further is the fact that these men look very similar, and neither has a useful IMDb profile photo, so it took me like 10 minutes to confirm that Mr. Perry is entering the racetrack arm in arm with a female U.S. senator, while the mayor follows arm in arm with Perry's wife.
What?
So the couple have been split up, and for some reason the mayor isn't going in with a senator. The guy who owns this track is going in with a senator, and that guy's wife is going in with the mayor. Perry tells the senator that this dog track will be one of the biggest things to ever happen to generic unnamed state. Unless this is Alabama as itself. I don't think anyone says the name of the state in the movie. We see Kim riding her bike through the crowds and just parking it at the curb without locking it up. Pretty sure she's supposed to be grounded, so I wouldn't leave my bike blocking the entrance to my dad's new job if I were her. Sheriff Tatum lets her inside ahead of the crowds to find her father. Inside, she notices her dad approaching the lobby and ducks into a dark closet to hide, but she's instantly bit by a rattlesnake. She throws open the door and screams for help, and her parents are quickly by her side.
Man, and she's really good at being like a kid who's just absolutely in a fit of panic.
It's honestly, she's the best actress
I was
in
going
the
to
movie
say,
right here.
By far, just this moment. Yep.
We see Sheriff Tatum, who was just guarding the door at the track, dropping Hendricks off at the snake cave that they were both at together earlier today. I don't know why these scenes are all flopped around like this. But then he says he has to go back to the racetrack. Hendricks explores the cave with a flashlight and a snake pole. He's not being especially careful, and he's quickly bit and rolls unconscious to the floor of the cave. We cut back to Kim lying in a bed with her leg bite exposed. Her body is reacting so quickly to the venom that they aren't sending her to the hospital. The hospital is sending anti-venom here. Her father says he's going to cancel the park's opening, but the mayor is in too deep and won't let him now. We cut to Dr. Sheridan in a phone booth speaking with Father Farrow. Unclear if we're supposed to hear what she's saying.
Yeah.
But she is totally muted, so we only hear Farrow's half of the conversation asking where Hendricks is.
Yeah, I feel like the Farrow side of the conversation was added because for whatever reason the audio that they had for her was completely lost.
Do you it sounded 80 yard on his side, you think?
No, I think that they had her calling and probably had her making.
And since they didn't have that audio, they went back and recorded something with him.
Yeah, they said it's like, where is he? At the caverns? I'm going to repeat the things that you tell me.
Since no one else can hear them. Dr. Sheridan drives out to the cave in the woods, and we cut to Father Farrow leading a church service.
When she's driving out to the cave, there's this weird, like, trombone or tuba music playing. It's like, womp, 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 womp. It's just like, it's like something that you would expect, like, just like a bumbling idiot to have played behind you.
That's weird.
It wasn't tense.
It sounds like that drunk Godzilla score.
Yeah.
It's just like, what is happening?
I was like, what is this? This is a terrible music choice.
Out of nowhere, something occurs to Farrow, and he says the word caverns while staring at a stained glass Illuminati window in his church. He wanders distracted out of the church to the confusion of the entire congregation.
So, my grasping at straws for this moment, other than the fact that he already said the caverns on the phone to Dr. Sheridan.
Is he thinking of the book that he read at the beginning?
I think he's thinking of the burial on the mound. He's like giving this like he's like doing the this is my body, like the whole Last Supper thing, and that's where you're thinking like, oh, the caves.
Where the snakes go to die and then come back a week later.
Yeah.
But he's literally looking at one of those like pyramids with an eyeball on it.
Yeah,
it's like, who built this church? The Masons, that's who, obviously. Because they build things. That's why they call them that.
He just walks there too.
Yep. This guy walks everywhere.
Which then just goes to prove, where was Dr. Sheridan driving to?
Yeah. Father Farrow just gets everywhere by walking. He's just like got his Fitbit on constantly. We get a quick insert of snakes arriving. Writhing probably, and the text fucked it up. Snakes just hop out of a taxi. We get a quick insert of snakes writhing in the cave, and Dr. Sheridan can be heard screaming. Then we see Farrow wandering over a hill toward the mouth of it. Inside, we see Dr. Sheridan laid out across the top of a rock formation, as if on an altar awaiting sacrifice.
Yeah, I was like,
how did this happen?
She slowly climbed up there and laid down. I was like this, Mr. Snake?
Is she possessed herself?
I mean, she has seemed paralyzed in the past by the snakes. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is an element of Ka's mind control from the Jungle Book.
Yeah, but it's not like she froze and they picked her up and set her down there.
I mean, maybe they did. If there was enough of them and they teamworked it.
We needed a scene where they were all over the floor and she had to jump up onto the altar.
Or they were like mosh pitting her up there.
Yeah.
It's like a little conveyor belt, all the snakes roll.
Yeah, exactly.
They just form little cranes and they just hoist her up.
I want to see that now.
Like the wolves from
Storks?
Storks, yeah.
Farrow calls out to his enemy.
Satan!
Eventually, the satanic King Cobra presents itself, and Farrow wields a crucifix and recites Latin to drive it away. Dr. Sheridan appears unhurt, but is paralyzed with fear on her stalagmite pedestal. Farrow assures her the snake is here for him, and she can calm down. We cut back to the racetrack, where Kim is finally stable enough to load into an ambulance. When her parents follow Kim to the ambulance, her mother stops Mr. Perry and tells him he isn't invited.
I'm going with her.
So am I.
No. You stay here. You take a look at this place and you just think of what you almost paid for it.
If he hadn't kept pretending people were trying to shut down the racetrack, he wouldn't even be in trouble right now. No one ever asked him to cancel the grand opening. It wouldn't have protected anyone anyway.
Yeah.
Back in the cave, Farrow is laying on his back and praying to his God until a beam of light shines down on him, and he raises his crucifix to reflect God's light on the King Cobra, which bursts into flames. And we hold on this flaming cobra for a long time.
Yeah.
It seems like the snake venom is losing power all over town, and Hendricks awakens, staring in disbelief at this miracle. I feel like it would have made more sense to wait until the snake was dead to mention that the little girl had stabilized, because it doesn't make a lot of sense that all of these snakes are killing everyone in town in record time, but that she survived it on her own before they killed the big snake.
Well, and also, the cobra wasn't the one that bit her.
Right, yeah, it was a rattler.
It was just a rattlesnake.
Well, and presumably, same with Hendricks. Like,
right, yeah.
It was just one of the other rattlers in the cave.
So really, there's only one snake to be worried about, and it's not, most of these people are not getting bit by it. We fade to black on the flaming cobra, and the credits roll.
Well, except you got to point out, as this thing burns, there is just a bouncing wire in there right to the end.
It's perfect.
It was like...
It's just a crook.
Yeah,
like a crooked wire.
It was
bouncing.
like that was holding up whatever was.
They told the puppeteer to just keep shaking
just keep
it the whole
going.
time.
You don't know. Just keep going.
Yeah, this stick should have been manufactured to look like a spine or something so that it made more sense.
Oh, that would have been great. Like, yeah. Like, you ever seen those candles where you melt, it's like a cat, but you melt it, it's like a metal skeleton?
I have not seen that. That sounds cool, though.
Or maybe just make whatever you're puppeteering this thing with it flammable.
So that it all burns away?
So it all burns away, or just lower it as the pieces start to disintegrate.
Or maybe they're just trying to keep continuity with the farmer who said, like, I cut off its head and it just stood up forever. And it's like, same if you burn it, apparently. We fade to black on the flaming cobra and the credits roll. That's Jaws of Satan, which should have been called King Cobra, but I get why they changed the name.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's significantly better than I was ever anticipating it to be. With a name like Jaws of Satan and the idea that it's a, Satan is a snake movie.
Can I pitch you another title?
I thought it was going to be terrible.
Snakesorcist, wouldn't that have been?
Sure, that's fine.
It's a little bit more exploitation.
But either way, like, the production quality, we watched a really nice looking print of it, and the acting wasn't that bad, and I'm like, this could have been horrible.
No,
and
I think Fritz Weaver is great, actually. I think he does a good job as this Father Farrow character.
Well, and he's a pretty, he's a recognizable guy. It's a pretty decent name to have in a movie like this.
Yeah.
But this movie needed to be about Father Farrow or Dr. Sheridan and Dr. Hendricks.
Yeah.
Like, there's
3 or 4 plots here.
Because they're not interacting with each other enough to be helping each other. They're doing their own things. And I would have preferred either having this, if the plot's going to be about the snake wanting to get this priest, then we need to stay with him and have it be about him and his lack of faith and maybe losing touch with his congregation.
Right, because he's supposed to be the charis. Like, that's the whole point, is that he's getting back in touch with his faith over the course of the story.
Yeah.
Which should have happened as soon as he was like, oh, Satan is sending snakes after me? Okay, now I'm completely back in full form, because this is more proof than I had when I started being a priest.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's a great movie.
No, it's real slow.
It's got some holes in it too, but it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, but there's so many scenes where it's like she goes to meet the herpetologist at the airport, and it takes like a full 45 seconds before either of them says a word to each other because we're watching a plane land and taxi, or when he like tucks the woman into the car and we watch him walk 100 feet across the front yard and sit in a chair for 10 seconds. It's like, this is all, we're stretching for time really to fill a lot of this space. But I feel like there's not enough real action to make up for it. Even the snake getting its head cut off, we don't see that happen. when the farmer kills
Could have been
it.
so much more at the sawmill.
Yeah,
right?
there's, and I get, like, obviously I didn't want them to kill a real snake. So if that was their only other, alternative, then okay, that's fine. But I just feel like there's not enough here. But the performances are fine.
Yeah. Other than the friggin' sawmill.
Yeah. That scene was totally pointless, and the sudden biker rape scene was totally useless.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because there's no consequences for the mayor or Perry, whoever hired a killer to take care of Dr. Sheridan.
It's not like Kim finds like a receipt for an assassin.
Yeah.
But that's so dark already. It's like, it was literally just a guy trying to keep his business open. He's like, I'm going to murder a doctor so that I can keep my business open. And it's like, nobody asked you to close it. Just wait for someone to ask you to close it before you hire someone to murder them. And also, the mayor's on your team.
Yeah,
So you would have had to close it anyway. He wants it open more than you do.
Yeah, see, so, yeah, the mayor should have overheard that phone call and go, like, you hired somebody to kill somebody?
Yeah. He just walks out from the room behind him as he's making the phone call.
Also, I kept saying Jaws of Satan, like that character from House of a Thousand Corpses. Jaws of Satan!
Yeah. But so that's Jaws of Satan. It's a little silly. I think we get another snake movie right around the corner with Venom. So we'll get to compare the two when we get to that point. I think the cast there is extraordinary because we have Oliver Reed is one of the leads of it. I think the author from Long Goodbye.
Oh, Hayden.
Sterling Hayden's in there. And I feel like there's so much star power that it must be a reflection on the script, but with Oliver Reed, you never know. Yeah. And I mean, Sterling Hayden, what did we see him in last? Gas, I think.
Oh, no.
So maybe not, but still, a snake movie with the two of them is I would have bought a ticket. I think Klaus Kinski might even be in there.
Really?
Oh, my goodness.
Because I think
this gets better.
I think he passed on the opportunity to be in something else that we covered because he wanted to be in Venom because of those other two actors. So I'm hoping it's terrible. That'll be fun. It's always fun when you have three great actors in a terrible movie. I still think this is probably a thumbs down for me.
Really?
Yeah, there's not enough here for me to say, oh, this one's probably worth checking out. I've seen better killer snake movies for this podcast.
I'll give it a thumbs up.
I will give it a thumbs down. Yeah, I got really upset when I saw the snake had been defanged. I mean, I guess I understand in the 80s and for safety.
But it's also not in a shot with anybody else.
Exactly.
It's not in the shot with the actor, so it feels unnecessary to me. Unless this snake had been defanged long before the production and it was not for that purpose.
I mean, it probably was. It was probably one of those, like, rental animal type situations that you get for movies.
Yeah.
And so it might have been defanged for film in general, but maybe not for this film.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's being taken care of properly, then I guess it matters less that it's been defanged because it doesn't have to use the fangs to kill prey if you're just feeding it frozen mice or whatever. But who knows? Who knows how this snake survived?
You feed them frozen mice?
I mean, you cook them up.
Defrost them.
You defrost them first.
20 minutes in a sink full of water.
Yeah. That'd be pretty gross to come home to. It's like my wife left me and all the mice are defrosted on the counter. Make yourself dinner. It's like, what the fuck? Sorry, that's all we had. You love your snake more than you love me. Where's this going Letterboxd?
I have it in the number 2 spot right now. It is below Zoot Suit and above Splits. I mean, we only have 5 movies here.
Yeah.
I actually put it in number 3.
Okay.
I have it below the Splits, which probably is wrong, but
it definitely is wrong.
Maybe I'll reconsider. No, I'm not. You know what? No, I'm leaving it. I'm leaving it.
I have it right in the middle. It's in 3rd place. It's so I have Zoot Suit, The Aftermath, and then Jaws of Satan.
Oh my God, you have so now I feel better that you have.
I love The Aftermath.
I have a weird affinity.
The
for
Aftermath
that movie.
was so fun.
That's so
it
weird.
delivered on all the shit that I wish this film did. It didn't give us any of those shots that I really wanted to see.
It just needed Kim to walk off alone, wondering about her life.
I just needed to see one hostage's head explode, and then this movie would have gotten a thumbs up.
We almost got that.
Almost.
There needed to be more. I guess they were trying to leave it to the very end. It was like, maybe is this really the devil? But we had the train scene with doors opening and closing and locks opening. Like clearly there's some kind of supernatural force at work.
Maybe it's just a poorly made train.
Very agile.
And maybe
snake.
that was just like a very concave crucifix he was holding.
Because he's in a cave.
Yeah, that's right. And con means it's with in Spanish, so with cave. It all checks out.
But I feel like we needed more supernatural stuff. Like maybe the people who had gotten bit like disappeared from the hospital and like they're all in the cave, you know? Like, like I don't know, something a little more extreme than I'm pretty sure that this snake is the devil, though we won't outright ever say it.
Yeah.
But I like that though, because then it gives him a reason for, going around and biting everybody. He's forming his army.
Yeah.
Our director here was Bob Claver. This is Claver's first and only non-TV directing credit. He directed multiple episodes each of The Partridge Family, Welcome Back, Kotter, Dukes of Hazzard, Facts of Life, Mork and Mindy, and Small Wonder. The story here came from James Callaway. This is his only IMDb credit. The credited writer is Gerry Holland. This is his only writing credit. The music here came from Roger Callaway, who previously composed on the 76 A Star is Born, The Dark, and so far on the show The Silent Scream and Running Scared. He's back later this season scoring Evil Speak. The cinematographer here was Dean Cundy, which is why it looked great, honestly. The lighting was good and everything. Before this, he'd lit Where the Red Fern Grows, Halloween, Roller Boogie, and so far on the show, The Fog, Galaxina, Without Warning, Escape from New York, and Halloween 2. He's back this year for The Thing and Halloween 3, and later Psycho 2, Romancing the Stone, Back to the Future, Big Trouble in Little China, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Roadhouse, Hook, Death Becomes Her, Jurassic Park, The Flintstones, Casper, and Apollo 13. A lot of really well-lit films that I love. More recently, he's worked on Disney's Star Wars series, The Book of Boba Fett, and The Mandalorian. Fritz Weaver played Father Tom Farrow. We've seen him now in The Day of the Dolphin and Demon Seed. He's back later this season for Creep Show. He's Senator Sorensen on The X-Files, and he was John Reynolds in the Thomas Crown Affair remake in '99. One of his last credits was in Adam Sandler's The Cobbler, and Weaver died the same year, 2016, at the ripe old age of 90, working right up to the end. Gretchen Corbett played Dr. Maggie Sheridan. Prior to this, she was Beth Davenport in 33 episodes of The Rockford Files. We covered her last as Lieutenant Sheila Foster in our mini-sode review of PSI Factor. More recently, she's made a couple appearances on Portlandia, and she was Mac in Nicolas Cage's recent Pig film, which I haven't seen, but I've heard very good things about. John Korkes played Dr. Paul Hendricks. We've covered his first two films with The Out-of-Towners and Catch-22, and more recently we saw him as spy/dolphin kidnapper in Day of the Dolphin. He's the guy who lied on the phone and then sold the dolphins to the bad guys. So him and Fritz Weaver were both bad guys in Day of the Dolphin. Later, he's Tim Calhoun in Sinjanor and Officer Tom Robinson on Oz. Norman Lloyd played the Monsignore. We saw him last as Carruthers in The Nude Bomb, and later he's Mr. Nolan in Dead Poet Society and Professor Galen on Star Trek The Next Generation. Keep in mind, the Monsignore is even older than the priest in this film, 12 years older than Fritz Weaver, but he actually outlived him by 5 years, passing away during the second season of our podcast, aged 106.
Whoa.
Wow.
His final acting credit was in Amy Schumer's Trainwreck, and he was 101 at the time.
Oh my goodness.
Diana Douglas played Evelyn Downs. She's Hal Holbrook's wife in The Star Chamber, and she's Peg in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Bob Hanna played Matt Perry. We've seen him so far in Coal Miner's Daughter, Carney, Backroads. Later this season, he's back for Murder by Phone, Six Pack, and They Call Me Bruce. Nancy Priddy played Elizabeth Perry. This is the actual mother of Christina Applegate playing her daughter here. She also co-stars with her daughter in an episode of Married with Children, The Sweetest Thing, and most recently Bad Moms. So she brings her mom around for lots of jobs, because I'm assuming her mom brought her along for this job. Christina Applegate played Kim Perry. This is her feature film debut after appearances in commercials and a Days of Our Lives episode. She obviously exploded to fame as Kelly Bundy on Fox's first sitcom, Married with Children, and followed with memorable turns in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead, Mars Attacks, and as news anchor Veronica Corningstone in the Anchorman films. And she also just recently won, and was it the Emmys that she won an award and spoke?
I know she spoke. I don't know if...
I don't remember which award show it was, but I saw clips of her.
It was the Emmys, and she spoke. I don't know that she won anything.
Oh, maybe she was just presenting something?
Yeah.
Okay. But either way, she got a standing ovation from the crowd because she's been dealing with, I think, an MS diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so she's been having a hard time, but she was up and joking around, and she seemed truly grateful for the reaction she got from the crowd, which is great. John McCurry played Sheriff George Tatum. We've seen him now in Atlantic City and Wolfen. Alan Simpson, or Aline Simpson? How would you pronounce this? Allene. Aline?
I would say Aline.
Yeah.
Aline Simmons played Nurse Peggy. She's back this season for Porky's and Time Walker. I think that's everything for Jaws of Satan. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, you can find all our socials at linktree/vintagevideopod. If you enjoy what we're doing, consider giving us a review on iTunes. I don't think it helps visibility, but it's good for morale. What's that sound?
We got one!
That's right, it's a new patron, Lance Batty. As a $5 patron of the show, Lance now has access to 47 full-size 70s reviews and a hand in choosing next month's film. For March of 1974, our $5 patrons are choosing between the following 4 titles. The Great Gatsby, Jack Clayton's adaptation of F. Scott Fitzgerald's required reading classic with a script from Francis Ford Coppola and starring Robert Redford, Mia Farrow, Bruce Dern, Sam Waterston, and Karen Black. The Sugarland Express, Steven Spielberg's theatrical debut about a couple forced to take a policeman hostage on the path to kidnapping their son from a foster program. It stars Goldie Hawn, Ben Johnson, Michael Sachs, and William Atherton. The Super Cops, Gordon Parks' action-adventure film based on the true story of NYPD officers Greenberg and Hance fighting the system to restore justice to the streets. It stars Ron Liebman, David Selby, Sheila Fraser, and Pat Hingle, and The Three Musketeers, Richard Lester's adaptation of Alexander Dumas's swashbuckling adventure novel, The Three Musketeers, about a young swordsman named D'Artagnan joining forces with 3 like-minded adventurers in 17th century Paris. Each of these films is competing for a 50th anniversary review next month. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing Madman, which IMDb describes like so. A legendary psychopathic murderer stalks a summer camp. Fresh idea. We leave you now with a trailer for Madman.
I was just looking at more stuff about Christina Applegate and her mom. They're both breast cancer survivors.
Oh, interesting.
Christina Applegate, at 36, had a double mastectomy.
Yeah, I remember that.
And had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed.
Yeah, I remember my mom was like so proud of her for that. Because even at the time, I remember there were people that were speaking out against it. They were saying like, that's overkill and you shouldn't be encouraging people to do this. And it's like, fuck you, they're my boobs and I get to decide what happens to them.
She had the gene mutation that made it likely to happen.
They're trying to kill me.
Yeah. And it's just like, who cares? She obviously got fake ones put in.
Yeah, and she was like, I can get them to look whatever I want, and it's going to be great.
And Jolie did it too, didn't she?
I was going to say, most actresses have fake boobs these days. Why not?
Why wouldn't you do that in that situation? Like, that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, if I had testicular cancer...
Then, just put some rubber things in
they
there.
have those. They have those rubber balls.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
I forget what they call them.
Get rid of them.
There's a cute name for them. For the fake nuts.
I thought there was a cute name for the ones for dogs.
It's the same ones they put on trucks, though. It's not those at all.
Nudicles.
Nudicles, there you go. We leave you now with a trailer.
You're still recording.
We leave you now with a trailer for Mad Men.
Many strange things happen around here.
There is a tale.
It was a night like tonight, many years ago.
There is a legend.
If you say his name above a whisper, he'll get you.
There is a warning.
On certain nights, when the moon is full, he's out there stalking in the woods.
There is a madman.
His name is Mars. Mad Man Mars.
Mars! Madman Mars! Here we are! Come and get us, Madman!
Don't you realize you're fooling with things beyond your control?
Madman. There is no escape.